history of anything I've ever done. It started a quarter of a century ago. That's when I met Pina first. And that's when I became from one of those guys whom you had to force to go see dance. I was one of those include me out guys. And even that night that I saw my first piece of Pina, I had to be forced to go. My girlfriend forced me physically. And I'm eternally grateful to her, because that was the most amazing night of my life. And I cried through the entire evening. The two shows, it was a double bill of Café Müller and Sacre de Panton. You've seen excerpts of both of them. I saw these two things and just didn't know how I would survive, because I cried from beginning to end. I'd never seen anything like it, didn't understand why I was so moved. I just knew that was happening and I let it go. And afterwards I knew I had to meet this woman. What she had done there was unbelievable to me. It really concerned every bone in my body, and I never thought that dance could possibly concern me in any way. And I took lots of people into Pina's pieces over the years. And even the toughest cookies, they went for it. And Pina and I had been talking about a film ever since we met. For about 20 years. I had suggested it in the first place, in my enthusiasm. And Pina was a little skeptical, but after a while it turned around and Pina started pushing. Said, "We've been talking about this film for years, let's do it." And it was when Pina started pushing that I realized how much I was in trouble. I really wanted to do this. It's not the lack of enthusiasm or for desire, it was the lack of knowing how to film dance, and especially that kind of dance. I just knew my craft couldn't handle it. Whatever cameras could do, couldn't do justice to it. That's all I knew. And I told Pina, I just don't know how to do it. Luckily, she was patient. Just think harder. She said with a smile, and she meant it. She really believed that we would find a better way to film dance. And I tried hard, and I saw every dance film out there, and only to realize that the problem was of general nature between dance and film, and that nobody had really broken the code of how to do it right. And I didn't find it in myself, in my heart and in my soul, I didn't find a better way. And we never would have made the film if it hadn't been for the arrival of a new technology. And that was the last thing I expected, was that the solution would come from a new media, which was 3D, but that was the solution. Finally, one could be really with the dancers. One could be in their very own element, and that, of course, is space. And for the first time I felt, when I saw my first 3D film, U2 3D, 4 years ago or 5 years ago it came out. It was one of the precursors. Finally I felt I could do justice to Pina's work. Wishful thinking it was in the beginning, because it took a while until the technology was a little better prepared. Pina and I started to prepare this film together in 2008. We had almost 2 years leeway, because Pina was very adamant about the choice of the pieces she wanted to have in the film. And the earliest possible point these pieces could be performed in the calendar of the Tanztheater was in the fall 2009, 2010, fall and winter. And we were limited to 4 because the theater couldn't handle more in one season, and also for us, we couldn't possibly shoot longer than one season, so we had to wait till these 4 pieces could be performed, because only when they performed and rehearsed and on stage we could film them. It gave me a long time to get ready with 3D. And unfortunately, it turned out to be too long a time, because shortly before we wanted to start, Pina then passed away from really, literally, from one day to another, she was gone out of sight from all our lives, overnight. And that was of course, tragic, that we had spent all this time talking, and then 2 years of preparing, and now when we're finally ready to do it, she was gone. And I walked away from the film, just not thinking there was any possibility to continue it without her. The dancers didn't walk away. They actually, a few weeks later, decided to continue the company, and that's why they then, 2 months later, started to rehearse these 4 pieces. And when they started to rehearse the 4 pieces that Pina and I had together put on the company schedule, that's when it dawned on me that maybe there was a way to make a film after all. Of course, no longer a film with Pina, but a film for Pina. And that's what the dancers and I went out to do. A very different film. Would any of you have a question?